Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to analyze the fashion of the BeGoths doll, Lolita Sun. I am a Lolita myself and I have been for about 3 years now, so I'm going to go into way more detail than I've seen anybody else talk about yet. Firstly, we need some kind of a base understanding of what the fashion is, so I'm just gonna go over it really quickly. On screen, there is a very basic template into forming a coordinate, as they're called in the fashion. You could replace some of the things here with other options, but keeping this overall balance is very crucial. There are multiple substyles, and the main three of them are Gothic, Sweet, and Classic. Here are some recent examples of those from Japanese brands, although some of them are re-releases, and you can see how they all follow the overall Lolita shape. That was super quick and simplified, so we had to skip over some important things as well, but now we hopefully have enough context to go on. So let's finally talk about her. When comparing the doll to the template, we can immediately see some issues. The most prominent of which being the missing headdress and the narrow skirt. Both of the corset lacing and the lace trim look very cheap and stiff. She has some really weird seams going up and horizontally, possibly trying to imitate a tiered look, but effectively only making the dress look wrinkly. You could call the dress way too simple to be Lolita by today's standards, but the doll was released over 2 decades ago, when the rules weren't yet so established. The doll predates the movie Kamikaze Girls, for example. Kamikaze Girls was released in 2004, and immediately you can see way more similarities between the silhouettes. The movie is one of the most well-known pieces of Lolita media, and yet it still breaks many of the rules of this template. So we have to consider what the people were actually wearing during this time period. And for that, we have Gothic and Lolita Bible. For this video, I'm using material from issues 3 to 7, all of them being released right before the doll. These are street snaps of actual Lolitas from back in the day. A lot of them are not wearing petticoats or even headdresses in this photo. This one is obviously a celebrity example, but it's an example of the minimal poof that was okay during this time. Also, his makeup here is very similar to what our doll has going on. And again, some excellent quality straight silhouettes. There were big skirts in Lolita even back then, but for casual courts, it was totally acceptable to not have a petticoat. So could it be possible that there was a Lolita who wore this type of a coordinate in 2003? I used Lolliberry, which is a catalog of Lolita releases, to find that out. And I found some great dress options, some of them having the corset lacing that I'm looking for, and some of them having the correct silhouette. I think the closest one I found is this one. It has all the correct lace trims, and even though it doesn't hug the natural waist, I think the silhouette is very good. This is also the type of tiered skirt pattern I think they were trying to imitate with the random seams. Here's our sock options. I think those are overknee socks, so we are going with this one. She technically has bows on her socks, but those are a very easy DIY. For the shoes, I found these ones from the Gothic and Lolita Bible and stopped looking. So this is my attempt of recreating her coordinate from actual Lolita pieces that would have existed at the time of her release. But even after proving that a Lolita like this could have existed at the time, it does not change the fact that her dress is made out of very cheap materials and it shows, making the whole thing look costumey. Which brings us to Ita territory. Ita basically means cringe inaccurate Lolita. It's kind of like how these two are not the same dress. That's kind of what we did. But for me, that critique only applies to the quality of the materials of the dress. Everything else I think could slide. Even the hair, which is probably one of the most oddest thing about this doll to me, considering it's supposed to be Lolita. Ideally, she would have ringlets here, but people do have really weird natural hair and just wear their own hair with Lolita, so I wouldn't necessarily call it wrong. I would have just styled it very differently, ideally. But it would slide better if there was a headdress. Also, if these are not her natural eyes, and this is a choice, it's a bad one. I also found this photo in the Gothic and Lolita Bible, and it reminded me of the doll so much I had to include it here. So, what is my stance here? Do I think Lolita Sun is a Lolita? I am saying yes, but the eyes couldn't be thinner. She has some very good competitors as a doll representing Lolita fashion. So, yeah. Although I acknowledge that all these examples have been released much later and during the time of which the rules of the fashion got established. But all that being said, I think the company did an okay job representing the fashion in 2003 as a Western company. And in that sense, she reminds me a lot of this Shipajuku Girls Akira doll, who has a lot of Lolita influence, even though her outfit is even costumier than Lolita Sun's. I believe Akira was released just last year in 2024, and you can tell that her inspiration is way more recent, but the issues are still pretty much the same. But after all, these are playline dolls, and I think for the price point, they did what they could. That being said, this is not a hate video by any means. I absolutely adore this doll, and I would love to own her if she wasn't so overpriced. I just wanted to look at her outfit from the perspective of somebody who actually is in the community. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and possibly see you next time if I ever decide to rise from my grave again.